It was supposed to be a regular night on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, but little did anyone know that Clint Eastwood's guest appearance would turn into one of the most unforgettable moments in live television history. The studio was packed, the crowd buzzing with excitement, and the cameras rolled as Clint Eastwood made his grand entrance. The applause was thunderous, everyone excited to see the Hollywood legend join Stephen at the desk. But beneath the smiles and jokes at the start, no one could have predicted the storm that was brewing just beneath the surface. The interview kicked off lightheartedly, with Colbert throwing out a few playful jabs about Clint's long career, especially his iconic Western films and tough guy persona. Clint responded in his usual calm, measured style, grinning as he recounted stories from classic movie sets. The audience laughed and clapped, enjoying every minute. However, things soon took a serious turn when Colbert, true to his style, brought up Clint's political stances, which have always been a topic of debate and controversy. Colbert asked Clint about his views on Hollywood's current political climate, hinting at some of Clint's more famous remarks over the years. Clint, never one to shy away from honesty, responded with directness, saying he believed Hollywood had lost its backbone and that too many people in the industry were afraid to speak their minds. The room grew a little tenser, with the audience unsure whether to clap or stay silent. Sensing the shift in mood, Stephen, seeing an opening, pushed further, bringing up Clint's infamous speech at the Republican National Convention where he spoke to an empty chair as a stand-in for President Obama. The crowd chuckled nervously as Colbert quipped, "Did you bring your chair tonight?" Clint's smile faded slightly, and his eyes narrowed. With a cool but sharp tone, he replied, "Stephen, that's old news, and frankly, it wasn't meant to be a joke." The audience's laughter died down quickly, sensing the tension starting to build. Not one to back down, Colbert pressed again, saying, "Come on, Clint, even you have to admit it was a bit bizarre." Clint's demeanor hardened, his famous squint deepening as he leaned closer to the mic. "What's bizarre," he shot back, "is how people twist real messages into punchlines just to get a laugh." The studio went silent. You could feel the shift, as the playful interview suddenly became something much more charged and personal. Colbert tried to ease the tension with a quick joke about Clint's latest movie, hoping to steer the conversation back to safer ground. But Clint wasn't ready to let it slide. He shook his head slightly and said, "I'm not here to be the butt of anyone's joke. If you invited me to talk about my work, let's do that. But if this is just about scoring cheap shots, I've got better things to do." The audience gasped, realizing things were getting serious now. The back and forth continued, with Colbert attempting to maintain control, but Clint growing visibly more irritated. He began talking about the double standards in the entertainment industry and how people like him get ridiculed for standing up for what they believe in. His voice rose slightly as he emphasized his points, his frustration now fully apparent. The audience sat in stunned silence, the mood in the room turning from amused to uneasy. Stephen, feeling the heat, looked to the producers offstage for cues, but Clint wasn't finished. He leaned forward, eyes blazing, and said, "This is the problem with media today. You think everything's a joke, but some of us are dead serious about the future of this country." His words hung heavy in the air, and for a moment, even Colbert was at a loss for words, caught off guard by Clint's raw passion. The producers began to signal more urgently, sensing that things were spiraling out of control. Clint, however, seemed determined to get his full message across. He started to stand up, waving off Colbert's attempts to keep him seated. "I didn't come here to be disrespected," Clint declared, his voice firm and unwavering. The audience gasped again, the realization hitting that this was no longer just a tense interview, it was turning into full-on chaos. Security began to edge closer to the stage as Clint continued to speak his mind, now fully standing and glaring down at Colbert. "You want a show? Here it is," Clint said, throwing his hands up. Colbert, still trying to keep the peace, said, "Clint, let's not do this. We can talk it out." But Clint wasn't interested in smoothing things over anymore. He shook his head, his jaw set, and began walking toward the edge of the stage. The studio was in shock as Clint Eastwood made his dramatic exit, refusing to look back. Some of the audience began clapping out of sheer disbelief, while others sat frozen, Not quite sure how to react, Colbert turned to the camera with a tight smile and said, "Well, folks, live television, anything can happen." The crowd gave a nervous laugh, but the tension in the room was still palpable. Offstage, Clint was met by a swarm of producers and security trying to calm him down. Reports later revealed that there were some heated words exchanged before Clint finally left the building. Back in the studio, Colbert decided to cut to a commercial break early, telling the audience, "We'll be right back," his voice a mix of disbelief and exhaustion from the unexpected turn of events. As soon as the show aired, social media exploded. Clips of Clint's dramatic walk-off were everywhere within minutes, with hashtags like Eastwood Explosion and Colbert Clash trending worldwide. People were divided as some praised Clint for standing his ground, while others criticized him for being unable to handle a few jokes. Memes and reactions flooded the internet, and soon the incident was all anyone could talk about. News outlets picked up the story fast, running headlines like "Clint Eastwood storms off Colbert set in fiery showdown and Hollywood legend loses cool on live TV." Pundits and late-night hosts all weighed in, some mocking the moment, others dissecting it seriously. The clip became one of the most watched segments of the week, turning what was supposed to be a routine interview into a viral sensation. In the following days, Clint issued a short but firm statement. "I have no regrets. I went on that show to discuss my work and values, not to be a punchline. I stand by everything I said." Colbert also addressed the moment on his next show, trying to lighten the mood by joking, "I guess Clint really doesn't like chairs or desks either." His audience laughed, but the underlying message was clear. This had been a clash of two strong personalities. Behind the scenes, producers scrambled to manage the fallout. Colbert's team reviewed the footage repeatedly, trying to understand where things went off the rails, while Clint's team stood by his actions, insisting that he had been provoked. The moment quickly became legendary, a new chapter in both men's careers that no one would soon forget. Fans on both sides continued to debate the incident online. Clint's supporters praised his unwavering stance and refusal to be mocked, calling him a true embodiment of old-school grit. Meanwhile, Colbert's fans admired his attempt to keep things light and professional despite the escalating tension. The clash symbolized a deeper cultural divide, sparking broader conversations about respect, free speech, and the line between humor and insult. For weeks after, talk shows, podcasts, and news panels revisited the incident, each offering their own spin on what had happened. Some commentators called it a wake-up call for late-night TV, while others saw it as a reminder that live television is unpredictable by nature. Either way, the Clint-Colbert clash stayed in the public eye far longer than anyone had expected. Clint's next movie saw a surge in interest, with people curious to see what the man behind the headlines was working on. Colbert's ratings also got a noticeable bump, as viewers tuned in hoping for more unfiltered moments. Both men, despite the chaos, ended up benefiting in some way from the viral moment, proving that sometimes controversy can boost both sides. In the end, the night Clint Eastwood lost it on Stephen Colbert's show became the stuff of legend, a moment people would talk about for years to come. Whether you saw it as a meltdown or a bold stand, there was no denying that it was one of the most dramatic, unscripted moments in late-night history. And for those who watched it live, it was a reminder that in the world of television, anything can happen, and sometimes, it really, really does.